It's great interviewing your clients and customers to develop case studies and testimonials for your marketing content. But do you also share this information with your employees and team members? There's loads of reasons why customer stories are great for sharing internally. So listen on for 7 ways that you can repurpose customer stories for internal comms. You're listening to the Content 10x podcast, where it's all about content repurposing. I'm Amy Woods, and I'm here to help you maximize your content and find smart ways to get your message in front of more of the right people, whilst also saving time. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Content 10x podcast. I'm Amy Woods, the founder of Content 10x and your host for this podcast episode, and in fact all Content 10x podcast episodes. So thank you very much for tuning in. I've got a great episode in store for you. Now, the Content 10x podcast is all about content repurposing, and specifically how we can make the most of the content that we create and really maximize its value. In this episode, I'm going to be looking at ways that you can repurpose customer stories to help train, focus, inspire, and motivate your employees and team members. Sounds great, right? So I'll cover why it's so important to repurpose content internally, especially your customer stories and case studies. Also, what can be learned from customer stories, and 7 ways to repurpose customer stories for internal comms. Now, before I get to the main content, just to mention, if you want content repurposing tips and guidance, industry updates, inspiring stories, and exclusive news delivered straight to your inbox every other week, then join thousands of marketers, business owners, and creators and become a Content 10x insider. Head to content10x.com/newsletter. Okay, so let's start by talking about the importance of sharing content internally. While it's great interviewing your clients and customers to develop case studies and testimonials for external marketing purposes, it's equally important to share this information with your own team. These stories can be powerful content, and it's something I go into detail in on episode 231 of this podcast, where I break down 6 ways to repurpose clients' case studies, and I'll drop a link to that in the show notes. You can head to content10x.com/231. But as I was saying, your employees should be seeing this content too, not only when they click on your website or scroll through your company LinkedIn page, because let's be honest, they might not even do that. They work for you. They aren't necessarily going to be glued to your website or social media. And even if they are, it should be presented in a way that is addressing them as staff, team members, and partners, all working towards the same goals, which of course will be centered around pleasing the customer or client and delivering fantastic products and or services. Sharing customer stories can unite employees and foster a spirit of good teamwork and excellent customer service. They also bring to life the following things. First, the challenges that customers or clients are facing, so boosting empathy. Secondly, how your product or service helps to solve those problems and provide a solution to those pain points. Third, how your product or service made a difference. And finally, how employees and team members made a positive difference to a customer. Go team. So now we know the huge benefits of repurposing customer stories for internal use. Here are 7 ways to do it to create a more engaged and inspired workforce. Number 1, use them for training. Incorporate customer stories into staff training videos and content to help educate on pain points and how to deliver a solution to problems in an effective and efficient way. So when you have new joiners joining the company and you are developing a nice comprehensive training program for them to help them succeed in their role and understand the company more and what you do, what a great thing to incorporate into that training, to share those case studies and customer stories. So that's number 1. Number 2, for recruitment. So sharing customer stories in your recruitment and careers content helps candidates understand the company, your values, the level of service that is expected, and so on. So include customer stories and case studies on your careers page and in your careers brochures if you have any. Link them into job postings as well, and just think about how you can incorporate that overall into the educational side of the recruitment process. Then number 3, You can use them in internal newsletters and company updates to help inspire and motivate staff. So it's funny that we can often include case studies and success stories in our external newsletters, but yet we forget how great they would be in internal newsletters and internal comms as well. So that's number 3. Number 4, if relevant, share them with your product teams. This will help refine and improve your product. It might highlight some problems that arise consistently and help pinpoint what customers are really satisfied with and what they are expecting. So it's super important for those working on and involved in product development to know these things and hear it from the customer directly. Number 5, include them in marketing briefings. So it really helps to keep the company up to date with what the marketing department are working on and their big wins. And I guess a big question here is, does your marketing team share with the wider team what they are working on, why, and the results? If not, then they probably should. And they should also include in that sharing any case studies that they've developed and the customer stories that they've derived, because that would be perfect for these marketing updates. Then number 6, you could also put them on the agenda for town hall style meetings or any in-person or virtual company events and company get-togethers. And then finally, number 7 is for your internal company podcast, if you have one, of course. So if you recorded your interview with your customer to create your case study content, and you can turn this into audio content, and of course, if you have an internal podcast for employees, and I know a lot of companies do have internal podcasts and internal audio briefings that they provide their teams. So if that's for you, then perhaps the audio content from your customer interviews could be made into perfect content for your internal podcast. As you can see, there are so many ways that you can repurpose customer stories for using internally, because every company has their own internal communications process and ways of keeping staff up to date on company news, values, vision, wins, and so on. Now, I mentioned before, we previously did a podcast episode on 6 ways to repurpose case studies that was focused more on your marketing, your external marketing. So we've gone and topped that with providing 7 more ways to repurpose your case studies and customer stories, but this time focusing on internal communications. So there you have it. I hope you found this episode really, really useful. Now, if you need help with your content repurposing, we at Content 10x offer a fully done-for-you content repurposing service for B2B businesses. So just head to content10x.com/services to find out more about what we do and how we might be able to help you. We're working with B2B tech businesses to help them repurpose webinars and virtual events, helping them to launch and then run and repurpose their podcasts and video shows, and we help them repurpose their customer stories and case studies as well. Okay, so that's a wrap. All that's left to say is thank you so much for listening. Happy repurposing, and I'll catch you in the next one.